we go. All right, so welcome everyone. This is my Tuesday and Thursday learning bites, 30 minutes of action-packed, hot supply chain topics learning. I want you guys to get the most value out of this, like I always do. I always send you guys the PowerPoint, the recording, and the massive action checklist that you guys can go use and implement tomorrow. So that's what we want to be doing. So we're going to get started. I am recording this live from Busy in Vegas in my room, in my room right now. So that's where I'm at, but I'm super excited to go over this topic with you guys today. So let's get rocking and rolling. Today, we're actually going into two-bin Kanban. And my main point of two-bin Kanban is why nursing and supply chain must own two-bin Kanban together. And I had done a humongous rollout of two-bin Kanban and point of use technology utilizing SIFT at MedStar. And I left there about a little over 5 years ago, but this project would not be successful if nursing and supply chain did not own it 50-50. And the great thing about it was our CEO, our COO, and our CNO committed that this was a 50-50 project. This was not just supply chain. So we're going to kind of go through why that is and how you guys can think about talking to your senior leadership team about advancing Kanban and why you need it. So let's just get into it. So some key thoughts just to really start off with. So if you've ever walked into a supply room that looks like Costco after a Black Friday sale, that's what happens when Kanban just isn't done right. It looks like chaotic. Things are everywhere. So I really want to let's talk about how two simple bins, or even if you were doing another different Kanban strategy, flip bin, we use that at Legacy. Using Kanban can change everything if supply chain and nursing 50-50 invested in it. So, and I can hear myself through one of you guys, so I'm going to mute you. I see Kalash on here, so good to see you, Kalash. Okay, so this is kind of where we're going. So some key takeaways in this. How two-bin Kanban actually works, we're going to walk through that. And then I'll kind of give you like variations in Kanban, like flip bin or little cards, or there's a whole bunch of other ones, but why Kanban really works. Why nursing must own it 50-50. I'm going to talk about the field trip or even a video buy-in strategy, visual communication tools that need to go with it, and then like sustaining the process. So those are just like key takeaways of today. So let's just talk really about like basics. How does two-bin Kanban work? It is a visual demand signal. It is me walking into a supply room and saying, I know exactly what needs to be done in this room just by looking, not by counting every single bin in the PAR location, not by having to touch every single product in there. I visually could walk in a room and go, oh, that's my workload right there in 1 second of a look. So it's a quick visual demand signal. That's what I'm talking about. Super fast. And two-bin works that way. Card works that way. Flip bin works that way. I should just be able to look really fast and see what my workload is in that PAR location right away. For two-bin, it is 1 bin's in use, 1 bin is in reserve. Okay. And then when a bin is empty, it gets moved somewhere, whether it's a top shelf or a little holding area, that is your visual. And I can just look at the room and scan the PAR location and just look at empty bins. Super duper easy. Once the front bin is empty, it either gets flipped, scanned, turned, put on the top shelf, RFID read, depending on what company you use. Maybe you use Par Excellence. It triggers this replenishment. And PAR levels, usually we like to set them for 72 hours of stock split between the bins. Okay, so that's just kind of like standard, but it may change from health system to health system. So you really have to figure out what your sweet spot is. But if I was keeping that up in a PAR location, that's about how much I would keep. So let's just take a look at this. This actually came from Cardinal Health as they were doing Bellevue Medical Center. This is a case study. I love this. I used this when I was selling this to my nurses at MedStar, but this is just the simple, super simple concept, right? The nurse moves the last product from the front bin. Then they place the empty bin on the top shelf. They pull the rear bin forward. That's why I'm saying you have to have nursing collaboration. The empty bin is scanned by, I know it says materials management, and I hate that word. We say supply chain, to trigger the replenishment and initiate the order on that top shelf or in this little shelf wherever you're keeping it. Your software, your ERP system, or your point of view system, if you use Texas or SIFT, it is generating your standard bin quantity, your software algorithms and analytics. They're modifying your bin quantity, whatever it's doing, placing your order, whether that comes from the storeroom, directly from your distributor through logical unit of measure. It's doing all these things. The empty bins are either restocked and replenished down in your storeroom. Some people do that. I think that's a waste of time. I actually bring the lum totes up from my distributor to the PAR location, and I am actually replenishing them there. But those replenished bins are transported to the patient floors, whether in a lum tote or if you're doing it this way, and the replenishment bin is inserted in the back. That way you're always rotating the stock. And then the process just repeats itself over and over and over again. And as it works as a well-oiled machine, you guys will kind of see that the process really works. Now, if I was doing a flip bin or a little card, that card goes somewhere to be scanned, or a flip bin is telling me one half of that bin is empty and the front bin is full. It kind of works in a one bin structure, but with a little flip. So Kanban is just super, super easy visual for everybody. So why must nursing own this 50-50? So Kanban fails if it's seen as just supply chain system. Nursing owns consumption, supply chain owns replenishment. That's why it's 50-50. Shared accountability so that there's no finger pointing when the room runs dry. It would be like, nursing, you forgot to put the empty bin or the card somewhere so that I can scan it. Right there, we don't want finger pointing, but both parties must be present for it to be successful and for it to actually work. So I'm going to give you guys some tools in like how to pitch the idea, how to do some go and sees, and how to do some posters and signage, and really just get everyone involved in the process. So the first thing I'm thinking about when you guys get your massive action checklist today, I'm going to be talking about what you're doing first is selling the concept and the idea to your senior leaders, right? Because if you don't have Kanban at all, I'm really feeling sorry for you. You need some kind of visual demand signal. Super important, but I want to help you figure out how to influence, sell the idea, sell the business case, and get it to senior leadership for approval. So I'm going to walk you through some steps there. You've got to have the clinicians buy-in to make this strategy work. So I love to, even before I pitch this to senior leaders, I already have nursing on board. Like they want it. When nurses yell for something, they get it. So I love for nurses to be the voice of supply chain yelling for Kanban, and then they get it. And then supply chain's like, yeah, nursing sold the idea of us needing Kanban. It's awesome. Right. So it's super helpful if supply chain's not just trying to push some rock uphill that we need Kanban. And this is why when the nurses are already in, they're in. So first concept, the field trip buy-in strategy. So taking clinicians to another health system locally where it's working beautifully. So when I was at MedStar, we went to the University of Maryland. We did a little bus trip because we had a little MedStar bus. It's kind of cool. They gave us a full tour of storeroom to the PAR locations, to the peri-op area of how it worked. Then we took that same group of nurses to CHOP, Children's Hospital of Pennsylvania. they've got par excellence. They got to see how that worked so that they could see a couple different systems. They saw the stocking rooms. They saw no hoarding happening. They got to talk to nurses. Nurses were like, this is awesome. This is my firsthand account of how I love this. And nurses got to ask nursing questions. So that made it super duper easy. So that is one way to get like buy-in strategy from your clinicians. I also included in the PowerPoint for today, and I'm actually going to send you guys the PowerPoint in PowerPoint instead of PDF so that you can actually click on these. These are some great videos to share with your teams on successful Kanban setup at 5 different health systems. So go watch these. These are really cool. I've had my nursing teams watch them and they're like, oh, that's actually a nurse talking, not supply chain. So these are really, really great way to kind of do the video buy-in strategy. And you can do like a mixture of both as well. Go and sees and then doing some videos. The other thing is posters in our supply rooms of how Kanban works and really communication, right? You get buy-in when you have a lot of communication with your nurses. So the visible signal that bins are turned around when scanned, or the staff know what is pending, what's been ordered. They're not going in the room and they're freaking out. They see the visual demand signal. They see stacks of empty bins. You've worked with them on any bin facing forward hasn't been scanned yet, any bin facing backwards, they've been scanned. Whatever it is that you come up with as a team, nurses come into PAR locations and they don't freak out. They're less stressed. They're like, oh, stock is coming. The bin is the way it's supposed to be. The card is the way it's supposed to be. I feel comfortable. I trust my supply chain team. That is transparency. It builds that trust. There's no mystery, like black hole of did anyone even order that? They can see it. It's visual. It's very visual. And having those visual communication tools are super duper helpful. Here is a poster. I made this poster twice. I made it at Advocate Aurora in Chicago when I worked there. And then I made it again at MedStar when we implemented Tubin. And each of my marketing teams like took it to the nth level, depending on where I was working. But like, what do I do with the empty supply bins using the Tubin supply replenishment process? These hung on the back of the doors of every PAR location at MedStar and at Advocate Aurora, so that nursing teams could see, what do I do here? So step 1, clinician places the empty bin on the top shelf and pulls the rear bin forward. Supply chain scans the bin with mobile supply chain handheld scanner, whatever that looks like. But I have this big caution area for nurses. Empty bins not moved to the scan zone on the top shelf cannot be replenished. Do not take bins out of the room because they cannot be replenished. Like, stop. Don't do these 2 things. Make sure you're making the system work. And then 3, four little steps on the bottom. Number 3, scan barcode label creates a requisition. And we were using PeopleSoft at that time. PeopleSoft creates the replenishment order. The replenishment order is fulfilled and shipped to MedStar. Supply chain replenishes the inventory to the supply room location the next day. So they know when that bin was scanned, what day they should be getting their stock back. So they feel comfy, cozy with the 2 bins, right? And so really just curating messages and communication so that nursing feels warm and fuzzy about the process. This is super important. So I want to make sure that when you're building this with the nursing team, what do they want to see? What pictures do they like? And if you guys take my certification in operations and logistics, I do a huge deep dive into this, how to optimize your PAR levels, how to do reporting. all these different things that kind of supplement Tubin, Tubin Kanban. But, and I actually give you a whole bunch of different posters that you guys can use and take to your marketing department as some ideas. And then we can even work together on either an A3 or an S bar for your senior leadership team to really sell the idea for the need of Kanban so that you guys have a great visual demand signal for your health system. Okay, so moving on. Sustaining the process usually is very, very hard if your operations team is not doing rounding with your nursing teams and doing rounding at each of the units just to make sure, hey, how's the Kanban working? How's it doing? What do you think we need to work on better? So thinking about governance, supply chain and nursing jointly auditing the compliance, like going with a nursing manager of a unit and going and doing an audit on a supply room, I think is critical for the process to work. Having that regular feedback loop, if stock outs or overstocking is happening, both sides huddled together. Obviously, we need to reduce a par level, increase a par level. And so that maintenance is constantly happening. I'm not a fan of par optimization once a quarter, biannually, annually. I like it to happen continuously if you could. And this kind of makes that happen if you are doing rounding once a month with your nursing units. You could be doing it on the fly. Hey, your logistics technician is already in that location every single day or every other day. They could be doing par level updates on the fly. I think that that's important and that builds that trust with supply chain and team and nursing. And then we want to celebrate wins, 100 days without a stock out posters or something fun. Come to the nursing huddle for that unit and say, this unit is number one in the hospital, keeping up with, the empty bins being put on the top shelf or something. And I will tell you, this has to marry with a robust point of view system. Okay. I'm going to show you a couple ideas here in a minute. You can use mobile supply chain within your ERP system, Infor, Workday, PeopleSoft, Oracle, or you can do a standalone. At MedStar, we use Sift. I've seen people using Texas. I've seen some other ones out there. There's Wavemark, and when you do an RFP, I'll give you some examples. But I like to marry it with a very good working point of view system. I feel like the two have to go together. Your point of view system and your visual demand signal. Those are two separate things, and they must go together. So let's talk about success. Kanban isn't about bins. It's about culture. You're changing a culture. So if nursing and supply chain can learn to share responsibility in the supply room, imagine what else they can transform together. Value analysis decisions, choosing which rubber gloves do you, what latex or non-latex gloves to use or masks. It makes things so much easier when supply chain has a great transparent relationship with nursing. And this helps to build that culture. I don't know how many times I've gone into a nursing unit and they say, well, we don't really have a relationship with our logistics tech. We don't even know who the person's name is. Hang a sign in every PAR location with a picture of your logistics tech who owns that PAR location. And hi, I'm Skippy. I'm your logistics tech. I work these hours. Here's my call me at whatever extension to get a hold of supply chain and ask for me. Those type of things build that relationship with nursing and they're so, so important for success. So when we talk about point of view systems, here's some that I think are really, really good. PAR Excellence should be on here, but it's very, very expensive. A lot of the children's hospitals have them. But I do love PAR. I mean, they're the Ferrari. If I could afford PAR Excellence, I would do it. I have friends that work at PAR Excellence. They're a great company. But really just make sure between your Kanban, your racks and bins strategy, your visual demand signal, and then whatever your point of view strategy is, make sure that They work well together. They can implement together. They have a strategy together, and then it works. I know SIFT has worked with Tubin. I know that so is Texas. Obviously, Bluebin is Tubin. But I really just want you guys to make sure that it works. I'm going to throw caution to the wind out here. Make sure you're checking with your mobile supply chain capabilities with your ERP system first. Do not spend a ton of money on a point of view system until you know if or if not your mobile supply chain can system in your ERP can handle your workload and what you're trying to do. But I just want to give you guys some ideas of a couple different companies and check out Par Excellence too. I'm going to throw them out there, but there's others. There's Wavemark with Cardinal. If you're really going to go out for an RFP, let me know. I can give you guys some ideas. I actually have an old RFP template of a point of use RFP that I did, so I can always help out with that. Your point of use checklist, just like when you're trying to figure out your point of use. I'm going to include today your checklist of what you look for in your point of use company and solution if you're going to go out for RFP. So I'm going to give you, along with your massive action checklist today, I'm going to give you guys a checklist of what you should be looking for if you're going to do an RFP for point of use company. Because even if you're just assessing, your PeopleSoft, Oracle, Lawson, Workday, SAP, whoever you're using as your ERP system, you want to look at that checklist and make sure mobile supply chain within your ERP can also sustain and do the work that you need it to do. So I want you guys to have this massive action start tomorrow, a bit of a checklist / roadmap on how to start this journey if you've got nothing. If your shelves kind of look like these shelves here in this picture, and everything is just kind of mumble jumbled and in a bin, not in a bin, just stacked, kind of looks like this. You're starting from scratch, and this is at least a 2 to 3 year project, depending on your organization size, what all needs to be done. In this case, you need a project manager assigned to this project. It is large. You have a lot of stakeholders that are included in this project, not just nursing, infection prevention. You've got even risk, because you want to make sure that, for a joint commission and DMV standpoint, you're building these the right way, ergonomically, and all these things happen. Obviously, your IS or IT department, whatever you call it at your health system, they have to be involved. This is going to be a point of use has to work this way, and it has to integrate either with your ERP or it's in your ERP and you have to turn it on, or you really need to understand the strategy of how you're going to utilize it. They need to be partners and stakeholders. Obviously, nursing, facilities. If you're changing out all your racking in your organization and all your PAR locations, they need to be included. In case there's construction, I love to take a blank canvas PAR location room that doesn't have any cabinets in it, no sinks, no countertops. Have facilities rip all that garbage out. They don't need it. And rack, nice metro racking across all of the walls. That's how it should look, with not all this clutter and capital equipment and all these things. But you need to start with your project team. Who's going to be on that project team? I just named a few stakeholders that would be important, and anyone else you can think of would be important. For your business case build, your pitch to senior leaders, right? You've got to have all these things ready. Define your ownership, who's going to own what. You need to do your go and see at another facility, or the videos, or a mixture of that. You need to sell your idea, right? Senior leadership has to buy into this, because it's not cheap just to do racks and bins across one health system. It's going to be over $1 million, right? It's not going to be like getting a new ERP system, like 16, 20 million, but it's going to be over $1 million no matter what. And you're going to have to get buy-in for that. But if you're marrying it with a new point of use technology, because you figured out your ERP, mobile supply chain cannot cover your needs here, Now you're getting into the millions of dollars to buy a point of use technology and strategy, right? So you have to kick off your project team. You're going to need to build your business case with your senior leadership, get approval to start a kickoff project team, do your RFPs for point of use technology, racks and bins, your visual demand signal, how you're going to build it. And literally, as you have a project manager who's managing this project, there's going to be milestones, timelines, all those things will be critical. Because I will tell you, you roll out your first site across all the PAR locations. Let's just say it takes 8 months to do the first site because you're building all these racks, remember, and then you're wheeling them to every single PAR location in, the whole hospital. Then you've got to go to your next hospital and your next hospital. It's a rollout plan. That's why I'm saying a several year project. There's no big bang here. You got to figure out where you're going to be building all this new racking, on site, off site. You're going to truck it from your distribution center if you do self distribution. All these things need to happen. And you need your distribution partners to help you. You need the racks and bins company to help you. Don't just deliver a truckload of racks and bins all on one day. Send it to me in small bites. And you're really going to need to work with your point of use technology company or your ERP company to really say, I need to set this up right. It's going to be 2 bins. I need to know my reorder points. I need to know my PAR levels in each of the bins and where my trigger point is to reorder. All those things need definition and expectations. So it's a lot. It's a big project. But like I said, I'm here. My certification program teaches a bunch of this stuff. I'm always here if you guys have questions. If you want to start this journey, let me know. I'm here. So this is super fun. So with that said, hot final thoughts, and I'm just going to open it up for questions for a minute. Kanban looks simple. It's just 2 bins, 1 flip, 1 restock, but don't make a mistake that, simply just for it being easy. It's very complicated to set it up because it's a cultural change, not a supply room project. And if you try to do it as a supply chain only or nursing only project, it's going to fail because you need to commit to that 50-50 partnership, make it visible, have a ton of communication, celebrate wins. You're actually going to free up nursing time. You're going to reduce chaos. You're going to build trust. They're going to see supply chain's value every day. But I want you guys to think about when you roll out a large project like that, start small. Start with your smallest hospital. Make sure that it works. Build trust. Celebrate those wins, because it's not just about bins. It's about providing, proving that like clinical and supply chain teams need to align, and nothing is too big to fix. So this is a very, very possible project, and I think you guys could do it. So with that said, I'm going to see if anybody has any questions about this. Are you guys thinking this is cool? Any questions you guys have? Hey, David.
Great stuff, Angelique. We're a bit into our journey. I guess we have that Ferrari system of PAR-X at OHSU, but we did that in a lot of our inpatient units. We did find that putting a 2-bin Kanban was very cost effective in some of the other lower use areas, some of our ambulatory spaces. And you're exactly right. That 50-50 partnership with nursing clinical staff is critically important, because implementing it is one thing. It's the ongoing, maintenance and cycling of bins, that you've got to stay in tune with clinical staff. And as they change demand based on the patient, the types that are going through their areas, you need to stay in tune to keep up with their work. And that communication between the 2 groups is so important. I really did like that last little sentence that you had. With the partnership with clinical and supply chain, nothing is too big to fix. And that is so true.
So true. And your lives will be so much easier. I know, Nurse Heidi, you wanted to say something because you're always thinking about how nursing can collaborate with supply chain.
Yeah, and Angelique, I think it was fabulous. My favorite part about how you were explaining the relationship and being a supply chain nurse, which I never thought would come out of my mouth, is it opens the door for future opportunities because you're developing those relationships at the clinical level, which becomes overlaps, right, with value analysis, with, even Joint Commission or DMV coming in. It's that partnership between supply chain and the clinical teams, and all of those departments have different needs. I also really appreciated your comments about identifying who that supply tech is, because nursing wants to celebrate those people too. And if we know who those people are that we can count on, they become our besties. And I love the idea of putting their picture and where to contact them, because it just helps solidify those relationships at a completely different level.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, I love it. See, us brainstorming on a Tuesday afternoon. This is how supply chain gets better. Thank you, you guys. All right, so I'm going to end it there. I'm going to send out to you guys the recording, the PowerPoint, the massive action checklist, and then the your entire checklist to how to choose a point of use company. Please use it. Please share it with anyone else out there that's going through this journey. And then I am taking a break on Thursday, so no learning bites this Thursday, but I will see you guys again on next Tuesday. And I hope you guys have a great evening. Thank you, everyone.